Nobody
Yeah.
nobody value things like that. To be like, all right, well, it's valuable to mend certain things. Are we starting? Did we start yet?
Yeah, we starting right now.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, season 2,
Yay.
episode 1. I am your host, as badly in
episode
need of a haircut.
episode 1 again.
episode episode 1.1,
All right.
1.2.
We had a lost episode file.
Yeah, we might I can't even see my lip. That's how long my mustache is. I
That's
need a
what
haircut.
Patreon supporters only.
Yeah, I'm your host, Jared Wilkins, aka the Google grad, and other hosts.
Oh, and I'm Dorrance Creighton.
Yeah, got your name? Like
Look, I started pushing this computer back so I can. It looked like I was looking straight down. So.
Oh, okay. I thought we've been away too long. You forgot.
Right. Introduce me too. I don't want to introduce myself.
So what's going on?
Work. Man, I'm trying to get this pipeline going again, and interest rate threw a lot of deals out. Like interest rate moving those few basis points really threw a lot of deals out of whack for me. So I'm being conscious about getting back on the calls, reaching back out, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Anybody want to buy or sell? Anybody want to buy or sell?
They just they hike rates again today or yesterday.
I've seen that. I was on a call with somebody and they told me, and I was like, yeah, they raised interest rate again. I was like, yeah, like last month. And it was like, no, today. And I was like, oh, I didn't see that news yet. I was doing other things.
Yep, but I think 3/4 of a basis point. So you might see like a 1.5 at the most, like a 1.5. But you probably see a point on or a percent, like on the borrowing side. But the thing that's messed up about that is like the banks are good. You know what I'm saying? Like they've got money.
Mm-hmm.
But if rates go down, like if they cut basis points, they're not going to cut their rates.
You talking about the banks?
Yeah.
No, I mean at that point they can make a little bit more money.
Exactly.
I've heard. I talked to one client and he was like, he was kind of talking a little bit about the interest rate and how it went up, and he was like, yeah, it was like 5.5, and that means we'd probably be at like 6 or something. And I was like, you know what? And he's just like, well, I'm still gonna buy because I'll just refinance once it go back down. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, modern monetary theory, I mean, it's definitely a possibility just because of how the economy works or how our economy works. I think the plan for it though is, I think it's kind of tough to like just say that's what I'm gonna do because you don't know if you don't know that.
Well, no, nobody knows.
Yeah, like
nobody knows. That's the general want. So, all right, well, I'll lock in a little bit higher and then refinance down the line. Only because our history has shown us that it dropped, at least in our lifetime, in our cycle.
Well, yeah,
but I don't know.
Down for years.
Yeah, continuously. So this is actually first cycle where it's starting to go up. So it'd have to be like a third cycle to realize it's going down. So in that fourth cycle or that fifth cycle, it'll be like, yeah, it will go back down.
I mean, because they went down to the floor. Like the money was damn near free.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then and everybody's like, oh, I qualify for a house now. Yes. Because the money is free.
Right.
Yeah, money's not free no more, man.
I think I locked in like 2.3, 2.5 around there.
That was good.
Conventional. Money. And then on the purchase and about a car. It was like 1.9 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, this is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
This is ridiculous. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing that doesn't come down seems like is credit cards. Credit cards be like, no,
Nah,
you gonna pay this 1/4%,
nah. If anything,
25% for everybody.
they'll try to cut your limit. If anything, they'll just try and cut back on the amount you could spend.
Yeah, it's
But
scams.
um,
A lot of my
but yeah, I
cards been
mean,
they just been closing them because they haven't been using them. I got like a letter that said, "Hey, you haven't used the card in 4 years. We're gonna close it if you don't use it."
you know,
And I was like,
buy some socks or something, man.
"Well, I know the rules, and I just didn't do it." And I was like, "Don't tell me what you gonna do." Calling your
Yeah.
bluff. X letter. We close that card.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, we actually talked about. I think it was episode 6. Um, it might have been episode 6. I'll try to find a clip and put it out before we drop the episode. But I think we actually talked about the Fed raising rates and the effect it would have on home prices or people's ability to borrow, at least.
Right.
Um,
And did it happen?
yeah,
It happened.
but which is, I mean, they said they were going to do it. We're like a year early, because
Yeah.
they were pumping that inflation is transitory, like it doesn't exist or
Yeah.
whatever.
And then they try to raise
And
interest rates to help with inflation.
hmm
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how the market's going to respond. Um, I think a lot of people might just sit on the fence for a while, just the uncertainty. You know,
they don't have a choice.
that's what I'm saying.
You
But
don't you don't have a you don't have a choice.
even people who can just eat the higher percentage, they still just like, well, I'll wait and see what happens. So
Yeah, because you don't. You know what? I think something I saw. I wish I could pull it up, but I don't know where. I don't remember where I saw that. But it tracks, like, there's an index that tracks like consumer sentiment,
mhm.
and right now it's the lowest it's been in like 50 years.
Right.
And I think people are just exhausted.
Yeah, exhausted with not getting any more money.
Yeah, like, I think
Everybody's
they're
real
just
confident when
exhausted.
the money was flowing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So,
yeah, I think I know I'm for sure exhausted with just just the pushing of consumerism and buying things. I was just at the grocery store, and now the grocery store has like aisles of just stuff you can buy, consumables,
mm-hmm.
and it had like mountains full of like outdoor furniture and fireplaces, and you can see it's just an overabundance of stuff that they got from somewhere else that they couldn't sell, and now they pushing on you and cutting prices,
Yeah.
which has been a thing. I think Target. I mean, I remember Target having these crazy sales because they had like oversupply of inventory, and everybody's like, "Yeah, just go to Target and get some stuff right now." It's like I'm just tired of stuff. I'm so tired of stuff. It's like I don't want no more things. But
I mean, it's a lot of people over the past couple years, because the pandemic did a very interesting thing. It made everybody smart. So I think uh, I think those 2 years of people being smart. Well, as we discussed on the Lost episode that we filmed, the pandemic is still cracking. Basically, like it's still going
yeah,
on. We just
now
act
they
like
got
it's over.
monkeypox.
Yeah,
Monkeypox came out.
but I think people realize, like, it's exhausting to play those games, and like,
Well, what do you mean it made people smart?
because everything worked.
Mm-hmm.
It was a flash crash and flash recovery, and Mark Cuban said something right around the time that I remember, right around the time it hit, and I got to find that link. I should have been prepared for the show.
Right.
But Cuban actually, he said, like, you're gonna see the greatest example of capitalism coming out of this, and he was absolutely right. He was 100% correct. And this
In
is
what way?
meaning like because everything pretty much went like to zero,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it went to zero, and then it became, well, you got to help us, or you got to give us resources to move on. But then those resources became, well, I'm going to take those resources. Now I'm a business owner. Now, like the average person was, you know, trying to act and think like, I think it changed in many ways. I think it changed Instagram. I think the pandemic changed Instagram because now everybody is running ads.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer like, here's what I'm doing today, here's where I'm at. Everybody is literally running an ad. Like they're taking a picture, it's the picture's geared towards some kind of call to action. Right.
Yeah, well, I think that's not just the pandemic. I think that's financial scarcity for a lot of people because now you have to be in this gig economy where you have to, drive Uber and have a side business and cut hair and do real estate and so now your Instagram has to be monetized because you literally can't afford to put groceries on the table
But that
or
wasn't
or
that wasn't the case like pre-pandemic.
no, I think that's been the case for a long time. I think the pandemic is revealing a lot uh, about everyone personally, financially, mentally. It's just revealing everything. And I think for a minute, even I was able to kind of like, uh, you know, delay the inevitable of um, of understanding that this is all just absurd,
Yeah.
everything that's going on is absurd. And I think my response to the pandemic was to just keep working, keep consuming, um, and just act like it just wasn't happening as an effort to keep control over my life. And I think now we're kind of having like the chickens come to roost to like all right, well, the money's run out. The economy is like really like, okay, no. The economy was like, y'all need to stop. And it was like, no, give me
It was
more
like,
money.
yo, relax.
You put the money into it. And it's like, all right, well, we can keep going with this. It was like a drug. It's like, all right, we got that dopamine here. Now we can keep rolling. We can keep buying things. We can keep working. We can keep pushing things. We can keep pushing our things on Instagram and whatever we're selling, so we can make more money and start the cycle all over again. And if you aren't careful with that, and since the pandemic is still happening, I think we'll continue to cycle into these same, um, these same things of trying to act like things aren't happening when there definitely are happening, which is financial scarcity, um, all these different things that we kind of just throw in the back of our head and just say, well, let's just keep working. It's all absurd, and I think that's why people are really tired. You know, it's like people are tired of acting like this is not happening. You're going to present a face and a demeanor like this. This is all good, but it's not.
So
So
could the pandemic be a driving factor? I agree with what you're saying. I do think that's been like an underlying component like that's existed for the past couple years, honestly.
yeah.
Um, but I think the pandemic brought out the, we're just gonna flat out lie to ourselves,
Hmm.
and y'all. We're gonna lie to everybody we know. We're gonna lie to ourselves, and like you said, we just gonna ignore the fact that it's happening in this way.
But for the benefit of
And
who and what?
well,
Why?
but that's what that's what I want to know, because there's people that were normal people. Well, everybody's normal, but there's people who like their content changed from like, again, like just stuff they were doing. It might have been like minimal branding or minimal like, especially if you work in real estate. Like if you work in real estate, it's like you have to do certain things. You have to show
Hmm.
houses. You have to to tell people about your business. But then it became like you saw people actually attempting to become like influencers and real
Yeah,
creators.
that's the whole thing. That you are the brand mantra that people started saying a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
When you became the brand, that means each individual person online became a brand or a company or a shop or someone to sell something.
Mm-hmm.
Even your daily mundane task, like this is how I wash my hair. It's there's somebody on IG and her whole personality is her hair. This is how I wash my hair. This is how I blow it out. This is how I style it, and they just get dressed up and do their hair. So when you have things like that seem like they're seamless, like, seemingly working, um, yeah, the average everyday person is like, well, I can do that too. I can show people how to wash my hair. So,
But how do we get to how do we?
well, I can't,
I,
but
I guess what I'm what where I get like stuck at is like what drives a person who was like, a professional, like they're a professional in whatever it is they do. I don't know what they do. They're a professional. They could be lawyer,
Mhm.
doctor, nurse, whatever, right? Um, to just start doing that.
They broke. They broke. They not just financially, but like famously broke. People want to be famous. So even if you have the money, it seems like people want the fame. And I thought about this. I mean, you can just see like a doctor or dentist, these professions that, yeah, they're gonna make in excess of six figures, and they still not happy or content. And I think the human condition is to just never be satisfied ever. So if you don't recognize that and put some parameters on what makes you content, you never will be. So yeah, the person who has uh, a great life seemingly online still want more. It's like, okay, I have 50,000 followers. If I could only get to 100,000, that type of thing. What is it all for? It's just absurd. It's all absurd. It's
That's your
just
word. That's
and
the word for the day. Everything is absurd.
man,
That's
it's
that's
just
that's the
crazy.
word for the day. I
It's
don't know.
crazy. We just gotta act like it's not happening as it's happening. We just
That's
gotta be
that's
okay
the
with it.
part. That's where I get frustrated because it's like you have to watch it, and then I'm 35 years old now, so and I understand like when people get older, they don't have filters or they don't like they're able to call out certain things in a quick way, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like okay, now at 35, I had to remind myself that a lot of these people are like 22, 23, or whatever that you see at least.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You talking about
but it's
online?
like yeah, online, it's a lot of younger folks because I was actually talking to Gilbert one day. Um, and he has a nephew who was like playing ball. He was really good. I don't know if he got a scholarship or not, but I know he was being scouted. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I don't know what he does now. He lives in a house with some friends, and he's like, they just grind. That's what he says. They grind.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I don't know what that means.
Right. That
And
what's that code for? this is
just
this is a
it's
porn house.
they
We all live in the same house and grind.
grind. He's like, I don't know what they do. They be on their
That's
phones,
funny.
but that's like for the
No, that's
younger
that's
people. I think that's something they're more into because they can make
yeah.
reels. They can pay for sponsored ads and get
Mm-hmm.
exposure and sell merch, like random
Yeah.
merch. Um, but I think for me, I get frustrated when you see people doing it. You know what it is? I don't like to see the beginning stages of that. I don't really like to see
Mhm.
the beginning stages of a lot of things, but
You don't
that's
like to see
like
the
one of
grind?
them. No, I don't like to see like show me like the polished. That's why like every time I do something, it's like yo, I got to be like this, because I'm
Right,
not trying to
right.
look like that. I don't want it to look like yo. I remember we had one light and we were sharing a mic. Like I don't want that. You know what I'm saying?
Why?
I just
Why?
don't like. I just don't.
I mean,
I've never.
I,
I don't. I don't like
I,
that.
I've been trying to shed my own sense of self importance, and I think that's what that ties into.
Is
I
that what it
mean,
is?
it yeah, it's just the belief that yeah, it's your own sense of self importance. I'm this way, and therefore I want to project this because that's what I believe in myself, and I want others to believe that,
That's
and
wrong.
it's just all bullshit. But like, for to what end? For what?
I mean, if it's fake, yeah. But if something represents me, I want it to represent me the way that I want it to. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense, but it makes sense. The reason why it doesn't make sense is because there's observers on the other end of that, and if there weren't any observers, would you still think that way? That I want things to look a certain way to my benefit?
Mm,
If there's no observer, like, would you even think that way?
for me, I think so.
You'd be one
If
person on earth, like, this is how this is how my
I
camera has to
think
be
so.
set up, and this is what I got to wear, and this I got to get my hair cut. And
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no
so
like,
so
yo,
there's no observers and no reflective surface. You'd be like, I got to get my hair cut.
dog, I do this for me. like, I get my hair cut for me. It makes me feel good to go
Right.
get a haircut. You know what I mean? It's necessary, man. I feel bad.
Yeah. That might be um your dopamine levels might be very minimal. It'd be like the height of my day of all things accessible to me in this world, the height of my day is getting my hair cut. But I
Man,
mean, I get it. I mean, they say it's the small things.
that's bro. It's nothing. It's nothing when you walk outside and like the wind hit like all the new scout, bro.
Right.
Yo, that's a vibe.
Yeah.
But anyway, we off topic. but,
Off topic, on topic.
but but yeah, ultimately, I think people just got tired. I think people are tired of trying to keep up with what they think is going on because everybody's lying, right? But the thing that's very interesting to me is again how they're trying to like talk us into this recession. And when you look at a lot of the data, we're not that far off from where we were in 2019. I think in
Mhm.
most cases we are like in the exact same place.
Yeah, well, I mean, who benefits from a recession? I would
Well,
start there.
it depends on you know. I think it just depends. It depends on what your intentions are. Like, because did people benefit during this flash crash? Right, and so
Uh,
there's winners and losers in every in every situation, but it would just be
I
the
th-
opposite.
I think people are so excited. I think people are. I would say our age, maybe. Um, they might be so excited for a recession because they want things to drop, specifically real estate, so they can have a chance to buy. And I think they don't know what a recession was because they didn't have anything during that time and they didn't lose anything.
Hmm.
Um, they didn't have anything on the line. At that time, I had a few things, and I knew what it meant to be in a recession and lose everything. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Like, all your closest friends, families, and relatives, like, they're going through a recession too. It's not like a money grab. It's not like a we're coming up on this. It's suffering. It's
Everybody,
literally people don't get,
everybody,
they can't pay their mortgage. They close it on their properties. A lot of foreclosures, like neighbors, friends, family. So people hoping for a thing is that's is very self-centered and all based on a come up. And really, in my experience, the only people that came up was people who already had money, who were already up. Because um, in a recession, there's no money. There's no money. You don't have any money. income, uh, available credit to use. There's nothing. It's barren. I don't get it. People don't understand what it was like. They just
Well,
think
I think I, I think
it's
also
not.
what
It's not
happens.
what you think it is,
I think people are also confusing the difference between like a crash and a recession,
or a
and
correction.
because that too, because there's been corrections across all asset classes. It might not be as drastic in certain locations, but there's definitely been corrections. I just seen a condo go up over here by my house for 285. That same
Mm-hmm.
condo was 400 grand like 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So there's definitely corrections, but that doesn't mean crash. And I think because that's the most recent memory of what a recession is for
Mm-hmm.
most people, they just automatically like point to that.
Yeah,
And it
for
might
sure.
not be that. You know what I'm saying? It might not be that. It could just be there's no money, there's no cheap money anymore. Jobs might be a little scarce because companies might scale back on their hiring efforts and use this time to cut all the sucky employees.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. A
it's
lot. Yeah.
stuff like that.
There's a lot of job cuts. A lot of job cuts. I mean, hundreds of jobs, thousands of jobs being cut during the recession.
Yeah,
I don't know.
they were like,
That's not what you want. That's not what you want.
well, the thing again, the pandemic made everybody smart, so everybody came up just from like buying Tesla. So now it's like, oh well, yeah, if we had a recession, I can go do this, but no, because now the money you have as your reserves would also be worth less.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, well, what is the who benefits from it? What's the benefit of that? And I think most people think about how they're going to come up on a recession. Um,
I
and
also think
again,
that's why we can
you
never have a real one because everybody on Twitter will be talking about how they're coming up,
mm-hmm,
and so like amongst society, we wouldn't like we're still in a pandemic and we talk about it like it ended 10 years ago. So
yeah,
I don't think socially people would be able to
yeah,
even accept like that level that like level an event of that level, financially because there'd be so many examples online of people doing well.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
if you live in the real world it'd be different. You'd understand like okay, well that's marketing. But but for most people
Well,
they
if
won't be
we
able to
all
tell.
don't live in the real world, if everyone's online, that kind of becomes your reality. And I forgot what I was going to say.
It's absurd.
It's just absurd. People, it's absurd. Um,
Yeah.
I forget. It'll come back to me. You can go ahead. You have anything to add? While this comes back to me.
Oh man, we've been going that long. Um,
Uh,
but yeah. So I
this is
just
live, folks. This is live.
I don't think I think we're more so recession-ish. Like when you're looking at like people were upset with Facebook. They just reported earnings yesterday. I think it was yesterday. And people were like super like bearish on Facebook because this is the first time they've missed like year over year revenue growth or something like that. Um and I'm like it might have been I don't know, it might have been I can't remember. I don't know if it was earnings or revenue. But basically instead of hitting their projected mark of like 29 billion, they hit like 28 billion.
Okay.
And so now everyone's up in arms. Like, oh, this is it. This is the recession.
What?
this, is,
That's the example.
this is the recession. Um, things are slowing down. Like companies need to be more careful. I'm like, bro, it's like that's not even 1%.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the stuff they're using to talk us into this slowdown. They
Mm-hmm.
need people to believe it, even if it's not necessarily heading in that direction as quickly.
Well, people believe in it. It actually helps. um, when we talk about the economy or investments, it's not just a thing. It's people. People believe in certain things, and then they come to pass. So I think if they keep pushing um, the recession talk, it will be possibly something that amounts to some type of recession.
Is that I don't know. That's kind of weird to me. Like, why why do we have to push that hard? Like when everything was popping, nobody was at. Well, they were out here kind of rubbing that in everybody's
Because
face.
they're setting up the new get money scheme. You say this is what's happening. You set the narrative. This is what's happening, so you can set up the next scheme for you to get money. It's like people love to benefit on disaster, and that's kind of what what's name was about. Did you see Nope?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I've heard mixed reviews.
Yeah, um, I liked it. I enjoyed it, but without telling the movie, I'll just tell the point that in this like hustle gig economy, everyone's kind of like setting up the next hustle. So you kind
Hmm.
of like start your narrative with there's going to be a recession. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Like when they were trying to set up crypto for the next come up.
Hmm.
Remember, this is going to be the new thing. It's going to be like you know, um, like internet money, and they were pushing that to set up the next scheme. It was like get everybody excited, set the narrative up, get everybody excited, put our scheme in place, pull out and run off with the money. Push the narrative of the recession, benefit from the disaster in whatever way, in whatever capacity you have set up, extract the money and then run off to the next thing. No one's thinking about people anymore. The the effect that these schemes and this get money schemes happen to have on people anymore. It's just all about getting the next dollar. And like to the point where you said where you were talking about Mark Cuban talking about this is going to be the greatest capitalism or capitalist moment or whatever he said. Um, I think that's what people mean. Um, we're set up for a disaster that you can benefit on. What? How did we get here? How do we get here to where we're now setting ourselves up in position to benefit from a disaster like when COVID was at its height? People were investing in Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine, and people made a ton of money.
Hmm.
That's disaster capitalism.
I mean, is it like it? Is it though? Like, so I understand that. Like, I definitely understand
That's
how it can be
just it's
seen that
just
way.
it's just gross. It's gross.
But how else would okay? How else would these companies get the funds to do so?
What do you mean? The
Like,
the
who
people
would
the
give
people
them the
didn't invest
money?
in them.
Who would give them the money? Because they sold the shares to a bank. The bank sold the shares to us,
Hmm.
right? So if the bank couldn't unload those shares, who would give them money?
I don't care.
Then how would they develop the drug?
I look. I said I don't care.
No,
Somebody
I
would
know
give
you
them
don't.
money, but
We it's like
but it's
who
like
does it?
you have to decide how you want to build your worldview. And if my worldview is around um I don't know, selling policies, and this is what I want to do to make my money. And um I do that to that end or whatever. And I feel like it's not bothering anybody or affecting anybody negatively, then that's what you do. Um, but if your worldview is, as long as I make some money off of it, I don't care how it affects people, then there'll be money available for that. I'm just saying I don't care, you know?
Mm.
Or it's just like, it's just those things, like I get those things have to be done. Like we of course we want to invest in life-saving drugs, but the idea that I'm doing this because I know it's going to make me money is what's gross to me. All right, the money's going to be there for that.
Why do people do anything? Like they do. People do everything. Why else? Why else? Like why else would you? Like I don't know. I get what you're saying. I understand what you mean. I'm
You
just
saying why would you do anything if it didn't make money?
yeah, because you wouldn't have anything. You literally wouldn't have anything. You wouldn't have nothing. Like you wouldn't have a car. You wouldn't have food unless you grew
Right.
it. But then even you'd have to barter. Maybe you have to barter some stuff.
I'm
It's
gonna
like the
trade
old
these
paperclip
potatoes for
game.
that hat.
Yeah, let me trade my paperclip up to a car type thing. You know.
Right.
I understand how I could look at. Oh, you know what though? I'll be looking at it like if like it just has to be that way. It has to because everybody doesn't have the same moral makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's things that we've discussed on this show that we wouldn't do because morally they don't fit. You know, they don't fit us. But there's other people out here who do it. They do it willingly.
But like what? I don't know. You talking for me? I don't know. I might do it.
It could be
You try to say
whatever.
we shouldn't sell Rich by Monday paper clips?
I would definitely sell Rich by Monday paper clips because I would want those. I do want those. Now that you bring it up, I do want them. But it's just certain things I wouldn't do. Like I wouldn't, because put it like this: has there been opportunities for you to do something that that didn't align with you as an individual, regardless of how much money it would have made you?
Yeah, yeah, but maybe I should rethink that. Maybe that's why I'm poor.
I mean, even like music. Like I used to do music. I don't even think I can rap anymore. But I used to do music, and I disagreed with a lot of the stuff that went along with that. I disagreed with rapping about certain stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, well, should I have been out here rapping about that
What you
if
mean?
I'd have
Like something
been
that's like negatively impacting something?
yeah. Because I say that because Glasses Malone, right? So G Malone and Joe and his brother Deuce Mac was on No Jumper, the No Jumper
Mm-hmm.
podcast, and shout out to LA Giants. You know what I'm saying? Go
Yeah, I
get
didn't
their
get a
new
chance to
album.
check that out yet. Yeah, the album was nice though.
G Sweets and P Talk. Go ahead and get that. But I bring
I'll
it
be
up
bumping
because
that. I get it.
Glasses
I'll be bumping that in the gym.
Glasses said something that was very interesting about what happened when he met a certain. I'm not gonna say the name because I don't want to act like it's some kind of beef or whatever. But he met a certain rapper that he looked up to,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember back then he was trying to start like this like new West as they were calling it, but basically it was something for a lot of the new artists to identify with because there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really an olive branch from the older artists, the more veteran
Mm-hmm.
artists, and a lot of the older cats got upset with him about it, and so he said there was a point in time when he met one of the artists that he looked up to a lot, and they ended up having some kind of issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said when he finally seen him, I guess he let it be known that there was, where he stands in the issue. But he was like, well, why wouldn't I expect, or why wouldn't you expect me to act this way when you told me to do it? You told me to act this way. I bought all your CDs.
Mm-hmm.
I bought all your movies. I watched Friday.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's something that we lose sight of when we're talking about producing
So
or
hold on,
selling.
I got lost in the example.
What you mean?
Um, you saying he approached him and said on a certain way and said,
Yeah, so I don't know the full story. I don't know the full story, which is why it's kind of like a blur.
yeah, I, haven't,
But
I guess I got to
apparently,
watch the podcast to get.
yeah, apparently they met in person at some point, and there was some friction.
Mm-hmm.
What it was, I don't know. Right, I don't know what it was, but But apparently there was some friction, and his whole stance on that was, why would you expect me to act any different when you told me to act this way?
Got
So
it.
you know what I
And
mean?
I
Like
got my marching orders from your
from
music,
you,
your content.
exactly.
Right.
So I bring that up to say, or to tie in back to the we originally were at, was there's things that morally might not, you know, align with who you are because of the way they impact other people.
Mm-hmm.
So when it
Yeah.
came to me making music, I knew that making a certain type of music would have an impact on certain people. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have a okay. An example comes to mind of where I had that same thought. Where there's a time where like hookah had just got like mainstream. Remember we was, like smoking hookah. I mean, I bought my first hookah like in like 2010 or 11 or something.
Hmm.
That's before it like really started blowing up. Where it actually had to come from Israel. It was shipped from Israel,
Yeah, I remember that.
and um, so fast forward, we smoking hookah, and I'm like, man, this would be cool to open up a hookah lounge. And then at one time we did some research in the opening one, and then that same moral compass I guess kind of like popped up to say, this is primarily going to be like 18 to 21 year olds. Do I want to sell an addictive substance, you know, to kids to where they can possibly be hooked on this for life,
Hmm.
you know? So I think that's the earliest example I can think of. Well, one that just comes to mind where I'm just like, I don't want to do that. I mean, yes, it's going to make money. It's hot right now, but I don't want to be part of that. Um, selling this addictive drug to kids for profit.
So
So yeah. So to answer your question, yes, there's been examples of that in my life, and maybe it's just because um, if it affects people on a mass scale, or if I think it affects people on a mass scale, or just more people than me, um, I'm more apt to be like, nah, I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to be part of that. Now, if it just affects me, you know,
yeah, that's
that
different.
morality might be a sliding scale.
Yeah. Yeah. um, I mean, for me, it's the same. But I think, like, the way my brain works, I couldn't do something knowing that I intentionally wronged someone. Like, for the
Hmm.
sake of just for my benefit, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Hmm. Yeah, for profit,
Yeah, like, just I couldn't do that.
right? I get
Even
that.
even though it would be lucrative, but but I just personally I just wouldn't be able to, like, actually follow through with that idea, and which is why I'm so, like, bless you, which is why I'm so
Thanks.
passionate about certain things, um because at one point I believed a lot of this shit that we see, that a lot of the marketing, a lot of the, like Glasses said, like, I'm this way because you told me to be this way,
Hmm.
and things that you see in society, things when you go outside, these ideas that you shape when you're a young adult, that many adults actually reinforce because they've never grown up, or they're too scared to, like, to be accountable and take on their own actions. So they kind of just stay in that little lane where, they continue to, like, they just stay in a cycle of just negative dumb shit. And
Yeah, it takes a long time to well, it takes some time to realize that how you're living, dressing, eating is all based on your external stimuli and what's going on around you and
mhm,
how other people are doing things. And I was thinking about this earlier, like how just even your walk or your gait um, as a man and all the things you think what it is to be a man, you pick up from other men, right? That you like and respect. And you pick up these things like, okay, this guy wears, Stacey Adams. Like, yeah, I like that. I'm gonna wear Stacey Adams. This
Mm-hmm.
guy wears a button up white shirt, or this guy wears um, uh, a 3X tall tee. Yeah, I like that. I'm aware of that too. And you start to grab these things from other men that you like and respect, and then you kind of build your own persona or whatever you're presenting to the world as.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes a point for you personally where you're like, okay, I picked up all these things, from external sources, but what do I like? What do I like? Like, what do I want to wear? How do I want to speak? How do I want to walk? That's not based um, on the external people around you. Um, and I think people stay in that because they've built that up to ultimately be like accepted. And if you
Mm-hmm.
shed that, now you're no longer accepted in that circle, and you have to find yourself and be okay with that, or find another circle that accepts the new you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Preferably, you just don't give a shit about being accepted by anyone, and you just do what you're doing. But and then I think that's to the point where how people can get caught up in like this is how it should be. I remember back in the day we were wearing you know this and this, and now they're wearing this. Well, I think someone's response to that, they're not mad that somebody's wearing skinny jeans. You know, I think what they're holding on to is is a circle that accepted him that's now diminishing, and you're the last person.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going to be forced to figure out who you are when no one else is around, or when everyone's moved on to actually figure out themselves. And that's hard to do. It's hard to do. It's hard to stand on your own feet and be a man outside of what you think it is to be a man.
I mean, is that restricted to like, is that only limited to like manhood or like being a man? Because I feel like, I mean, I know why you're saying that because we're men, but
Hmm.
I don't want certain groups of people to chop this up
Yeah,
and
if
turn it
you just
into an
say,
internet meme
I mean,
because
that don't happen anyway,
we're
but
being
you can say
we're being
person,
something.
person, human. It could, everyone does it. Everyone understands on a certain level how you're supposed to present in certain circles, and that's why you look at certain circles in industry. Everybody looks the same. They dress the same. I remember I went to San Francisco for a conference, and I'm walking around, and everyone had these bubble jackets on, like these lightweight bubble jackets. Everyone, same color though, same black or like navy blue. And I'm just walking through the financial district. I'm just like, everyone has these bubble jackets on. And I turned to somebody else in class with, and I said, "Do you notice like everyone wears a bubble jacket?" And I asked it to the lady because she had one on, and she was like, "Oh, huh? No, I didn't notice that." So uh, it's a part of fitting in. It's a part of fitting in the culture you're in. And if you
I'm glad you
stand
said
out,
that.
is ultimately not a good thing. It's like, you know, the nail that sticks out gets hammered, and you have to withstand that and still be like, all right, well, I'm still doing my thing.
I mean, so let me ask you a question. Let me make sure I frame it correctly, because this is why I think it's difficult um for society today to like to be present in certain things, because of that very thing. Like we're all experiencing things at the same time and sharing it with each other,
Hmm.
right? So we're sharing each other's accounts of the same thing in real time all the time.
Hmm.
um, and so that means that we also not only share whatever comes from that, but we also share culture. We share traditions, we share whatever, right? Everybody's sharing to the point where like a person in New York and a person in San Francisco could they could pretty much look the same. You wouldn't be able to tell. But I remember when we were younger, it was like you knew what people from New York looked like, regardless of how they talked. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you knew like what they, you know, what they looked like, how they
Mm-hmm.
would dress there. You know what I mean? The same with
Mm-hmm.
California. Like you knew, at least Southern California, you
Right.
knew how people from SoCal would potentially dress. And I feel like now everything's been like homogenized. And so it's like a weird hive mind type thing. Like everybody's like this one
Yeah.
person. You know what I'm saying? So like you said, you see all these people and they're wearing the same thing. They don't even realize it because they're not realizing we're all the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
we're all walking around being the same person. And I don't think I know what you were saying, but I don't like standing out or being yourself or getting to that point where you look up and say, you know what, this is absurd, as you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Like all this is absurd. I think I think ultimately there's power in that because then I think at that point then you can really
Yeah.
make decisions.
It's the most power, and not just like in a false I don't care way, but a literal living in a. It's more so understanding that it's ridiculous, it's absurd, it's all meaningless, and you still exist anyway. Um, that's like uh, that's a philosopher idea. That's not something I came up with,
Hmm.
and it's to it's to understand it's everything is it doesn't really have any meaning if you understand that and kind of live with it and be okay with it and still live anyway. I think of it as like a form of rebellion in itself, and I'm with that. I like rebellion. I like the fact that I don't have to hang my hat on this is how it is. I can say it's everything is everyone has their own worldviews, their own whether it's Christian or different tribes and circles, and I can still look at that and say this is all absurd to me. I know it is, but I'm still gonna keep living in it and dealing with it
Hmm.
and living through it and be okay with that. And I think that's ultimately freeing, but it's on all levels. It's like at that point, um, things don't affect you in that way, in a certain way. We understand, like, ultimately, like, okay, in 100 years this won't matter, in 100 more years it won't matter, but not like on some, you know, you know, it, it's not worth living because you still put value. I think you still can put value on things and make them valuable,
Hmm.
you know, to you. It's like I don't know if you have like a pen, right? You have a pen and it looks like an ordinary pen to you, but to me, my great great grandmother gave me that pen, and she wrote, the first letter to her future husband with it or something.
Hmm.
And now I have that letter and that pen it displayed, right? That's it attached meaning to it,
Hmm.
and that's what makes it meaningful. But to you, it'll be meaningless. It has no value.
I mean
So when
that's the importance though. Like you said, I think that's the importance though of like you can respect that, but it's not for me.
yeah, that's like you put value on being if someone puts value on being a certain character or presenting a certain way, that's fine for you. It looks ridiculous and absurd to me, but I'm gonna, I'm not going to enforce myself and say, man, I remember back in my day, we didn't dress like that, or we didn't look like that, we didn't behave like that. Who am I? Like that's my own sense of self importance to
Hmm.
to bear it on someone else and say, well, you shouldn't be that way. You should be like this, how we were.
It's
Who are
interesting you
you?
say that though. It's interesting you say that because I feel like that's what people do all the time.
All the time, man. Twitter
You
is
know,
full of it. Go ahead.
but just in real life, like that's what people do. And I think like like yourself, I tend to like rebellion. Um, you know, I go about it a certain way, but I think I tend to like rebellion, which is why like I get so adamant about certain things
Mm-hmm.
because it's like that's my way of rebelling against like you know the the stuff that people are trying to force on you, and it's like, nah, you're not gonna get me.
Mm.
I've been got before. You're not gonna get me. Um,
Like what's
you
an example?
well, I'll give you an example that that's used in marketing because it kind of fits in something
Mm-hmm.
that happened right now or recently. But just like the whole, like in real estate, how people would say, "Don't sell grandma's house" or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right. First of all, before we get to that, I want to say how ridiculous it sounds that people hate gentrification, but they want to go buy property in Ghana. Let me
What?
just,
Yeah,
I just want to say that.
come back to that later.
Yeah, but yeah. So people say don't sell grandma's house. That's a big talking point for realtors, right? Don't sell big mama's house.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sell your property. Blah blah blah. All this kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear about um Irv Gotti's new deal
No,
that he signed with like I forgot the name of the company, but
that's murdering
he
Nerve Gotti, right?
yeah. So he signed some kind of I forgot the name of the company, but basically he signed the deal, you know, where they gave him the ability to create, different types of like intellectual properties,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the only way he was able to do this deal, right, was to essentially sell Big Mama's house. And let me explain to you why that happened, right?
Mm-hmm. Was that
So,
everybody else's masters?
yes. So
Right.
he sold 50% of his basically his ownership into the master recordings of all the Murder Inc. catalog or whatever
Right.
catalog he owns. So
Uh-huh.
he sold 50% of that for I think like 100 million,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then they gave him like a $200 million credit to produce different types of digital properties for television or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So in total, it was like a $300 million deal,
Okay.
right? Now, if you know anything about Irv Gotti, or if you've ever seen him talk, he's like he was he's DMX, like he's from that era. So
Right.
everything is hip hop, everything is this is our stuff, we own this, blah 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 blah, all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
Talking about Drake, because Drake, he said Drake's new album is like the erasure of hip hop, like that kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
So, so what made him change his mind?
Money.
Yes, he had a conversation with
uh,
Jay-Z, and Jay helped him with the deal, I guess, to some degree. I don't know because I don't know them, so I don't know.
right.
But they both come out and said that they worked together on this situation, but um, from my understanding, Jay kind of told him like you can own 100% of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I sold my champagne company, I sold whatever company because sure I owned it, but what's 100% of nothing, or what good
Mm-hmm.
is it? There's no next move if I don't get out, basically. And the thing that I found very interesting about that is, as soon as he announced that deal, every single interview that he did, he was crying
Why?
because he couldn't believe that I don't know, you have to ask him, but I think it's because I've been sitting here being stupid this whole time, thinking,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh man, I need to hold on to this. This is ours. This is our stuff. It belongs to us." Blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got $300 million,
Yeah.
and he's like literal tears, bro. He's crying in every interview he does. When he talk about it, he cries. He's
Yeah.
like, "Yo, this is life changing. I can't believe this. This is amazing. Yo,
Uh-huh.
thank you, Hove.
Right.
I love you."
Right.
Like,
Right. I mean,
and
he's very appreciative. I get that.
and so it's that kind of stuff, right?
So
Like,
are you pointing to like the, letting go of the ideal that you're holding on to this for a culture, or let
not
the ideal
necessarily.
of the
It's
culture
just
dictate what you do
what
financially?
you do, yeah, or just period in life, because one, everybody's situation is different, and two,
Right.
you can't let them block your blessing. Like, imagine somebody, like, there's a lot of people like Irv Gotti,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they don't know, they don't have the wherewithal, or they don't have the relationships. But for
Yeah.
whatever reason, they take pride in, I'm holding on to this because this is what we do. Who's we?
Right. 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 Yeah.
You
I
know what I'm
think
saying?
I don't know. I don't know. I think culturally, tribally, we feel allegiance to people who look like us. Um, but um, I don't know if that's if that allegiance is beneficial for everybody in their individual financial
No.
situations. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how far do we hold do people hold people to a certain standard? And it seems like only the people who are outwardly known are held to that standard, because I don't know what Leroy Jenkins is doing in his house. I can't look at him and say, "Hey, you didn't buy black. You bought that soda pop from you know from the other man, not the brother man. It's so I don't know.
Well,
Uh,
I think we gotta. I think I might have gotten like an inside look at a lot of that because Inglewood was like ground zero for all of that. Like, all the
right.
activism was here.
Hmm.
Um, were you with me? I don't know if you were with me that day, but we were driving somewhere and we were coming up. I might not have been with you. I'm trying to think who I was with. I was coming up La Brea, and
Hmm.
there's a black owned coffee shop on the corner. At least I think it is. It's called Hilltop Cafe, right?
Hmm.
And like two white guys come out of the coffee shop and they're in suits.
Hmm.
I don't think nothing of it because that could have been me coming out of a
Hmm.
meeting. You know what I mean? So
Right.
they walk out and they're standing on the corner, and the car in front of me pulls up, like makes a beeline to the curb and
Hmm.
pulls up next to him, and said something to him. I didn't hear what they said initially, and the
Hmm.
guys kind of like laughed it off or whatever. And then they were like, "Oh, now you can't act like that out here. This is Inglewood. This is our town."
Act like what?
I don't know what was said,
Walking the streets. Right. Right.
this is what So, and all of that
Right.
gets you know gets shared, and it gets perpetuated online and through culture and in music, that these people are coming to take your things, and don't you know what I mean? And people who they've never had a bad experience with someone at all in their lifetime, all of a
Hmm.
sudden have an enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's different if you have a real enemy, like that's or someone is really trying to encroach on your your things or your stuff or your life. That's different.
Mm,
But just blanketed, this blanketed stance on progression that we have, I just feel like it's stupid. And so that's why I say it's stupid when people are like, don't sell your grandma's house. And I'm like, that's stupid.
mhm,
Why would you not? She paid 200 grand for it. It's worth $2 million. Sell it.
mhm.
What else you gonna do?
I think maybe just holding on to, what I think it might be. This is just this just came to me. Um,
We
I
need a
think
soundboard.
because I think this is what it is. Why usually you hear don't sell grandma's house. I think because where the house is located is mostly predominantly black neighborhood.
Mhm.
And I think because African Americans specifically don't have a nation to go to, we have like these small nations and they're called black neighborhoods and they were really made by redlining.
Yeah, they were
Um,
made that way on purpose.
yeah,
Yes, I agree.
so to so the point I want to get to is um, if you sell your house or sell your property in your nation and your nation continually doesn't look like you anymore, it's not black, it looks white. Where do you have a nation? So, in other words, it's not so much a financial decision to not sell grandma's house. I think it's deeper. It might be a realization that your nation is being sold because you won't no longer have a black neighborhood. Um, Now, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the end of my point, but I don't I don't know. I think that possibly might be what we might be pointing. That I mean, that just came to me.
So okay, no, but
But
that's a
it
very
can't
good point.
because it's
That's
not
a
a
very good point.
financial decision we're
Hmm.
talking about. This is an emotional decision, and I think it, and also it's not individually to this grandma because they don't know that grandma. You're not emotionally
Hmm.
tied to this black grandma, right? I think it's more so again, it's seeing a piece of your nation being sold away. That's what I'm going with. And I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know if you lean more into the um I don't know, the diaspora or what is it,
Diaspora,
the
diaspora.
diaspora.
Um,
Um I don't know.
well, I put it like this: if you remember last year when they had that lady who was about to lose her house because she didn't pay HOA dues or something,
Yeah, we talked about it.
right? How did you feel about that?
I felt you should have sold the house and at least, at least I mean at that point, um you're trying to um you're trying to hold on to the cash. You're trying to because there's money in that building, and you're going to just let it go to waste. By having the bank take it back. So at that point, you're trying to you're trying to keep the money. At least the money. If you're going to lose the house, at least you can keep the asset,
Keep the
and which
money,
which
yeah.
is the cash.
Um, I agree with your point to an extent because if you don't live in specific areas, then it's not your nation anyway. I didn't know what it felt like to live around black people till I moved to LA or
Mm-hmm.
Inglewood. When I moved here, then it was like, oh, there are black neighborhoods,
Right.
like where it's mostly black, and so maybe that's why I don't care about that kind of shit. I don't because
Mm-hmm.
it was just never part of my life anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
because we were always the only black kids.
Well, we
You know what
had
I
black
mean?
people.
Yeah, but think about your classes, bro. Like think about when you went to school, it would be like two or three of us in class. That's it.
I mean, that's probably your school. My
I
school
went to
was.
school with you.
Are you talking about like middle school?
That's the
I
only
can't
time we went
remember.
to school together.
I can't remember. Um, Middle school was still very
Well, we had different classes in
very,
middle school.
very
We
mixed.
talked about that. We talked about
Yeah,
that at the beginning of the
yeah. You're
podcast.
you're in gate classes. I was in regular civilian classes. So a lot of black people in my classes.
but even I remember in high
Although I
school,
was
like
an avid though. That was supposed to be on the road to going to college. That helped
in
a little.
in um, in high school, it was maybe like two or three of us in class. Um,
Yeah, but you also that school was predominantly Mexican neighborhood. So
yeah, I mean, but this is
at
what I'm
least at
saying.
that time, especially
So
at that time.
like if preserving like a black community on that level to where I could look outside and say I feel like this neighborhood, like that was never a part of my life until I moved to Inglewood and actually started to meet people who lived in these areas like View Park, Windsor Hills, Baldwin Hills, all that kind of stuff, Ladera. That blew my mind. I didn't even know people had that.
So
But
so so do you see a benefit from a black neighborhood now that you've lived there?
absolutely, I mean, absolutely. But at the same time, those people who live there live differently than the other people. They live. I mean, they're still close, but they live differently than people who
Mm,
live outside of those areas. And the loudest people who want to preserve these areas are usually the people who don't live there.
right. Well, I mean, that's because that's those areas are what people can aspire to. That's why you want to keep it black. You know?
Could you not aspire to live somewhere else?
Yeah, you could, but I mean, we know most people don't move, a few miles away from where they were born.
Yeah, that's true.
It's I mean, that's a whole nother conversation on how small minded that can make you as a human being because you don't want to live the same 3 or 4 blocks. Um, and it could be fear. Again, it could be fear because once you go outside those same blocks, people don't look like you, they don't talk like you, they don't dress like you, they don't eat the same foods, and it's a sense of comfort
Hmm.
and people like to be comfortable. The whole get out your comfort zone. There's a lot of people not doing that,
You
not
you know
willing
what
to.
I really think it is for me. I think even with all that you just said, I think more than anything, the thing that has stuck with me like the most is the data, and
Mhm.
like, and maybe because we work in an industry where you can kind of you get to be hands on with people, so you're not just reading a lot of the data, you're verifying it in person in many cases
Mhm.
because of the people that you deal with, you know, on your day to day. Um, but I think that's what because I'm very linear. I'm a very linear person, like so. I think that's what like stands out the most. So when I hear stats, like my favorite stat of the month
Mhm.
is the black household net worth is 25,000. The median. That's the
Mhm.
median. So that's the number right in the middle.
Right.
For those who don't know, the
Mhm.
median is the number right in the middle. So that accounts for all the billionaires, the handful of billionaires that we have, all the millionaires we have, all the high six-figure earners, and all that. The middle number between all of those people is $25,000. And so when I hear stuff like that, and then we also hear about how we shouldn't leverage our wealth, like that's confusing to me.
And why you shouldn't sell?
Yeah, like that
And
doesn't make
yeah,
sense to me. It's like, yo, we need to be selling and reinvesting. We need to be encroaching on different
that's
neighborhoods,
that's the key point right there.
you know?
The selling and reinvesting, not the selling grandma's house and going to buy a Lamborghini so you can spin the block, or put it on Instagram. It's the reinvesting part of it. That's the key. That's the key part. And
That's
maybe
necessary.
if it was more selling and reinvestment that was mainstream, um, I think that would be more in the conversation of yeah, we did sell grandma's house, but look what we gained. So
It's well,
that
case
has to be part of the conversation too.
here's an example. I'll give you a real example. So have you heard about how the Bruce family got their property back from the city,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's major.
So
That's Bruce's Beach,
Bruce's
right?
Beach,
Yeah.
which was a part of Manhattan Beach. Um, if you've ever been down to Manhattan Beach is it's a nice place. It's a nice looking place, but it's not very friendly to people of color.
Hmm.
Like you know, Um, I've been down there and heard and seen some things that was like
Mm,
ridiculous.
mm.
But anyway,
I haven't hung out there, but I have went to Bruce's Beach, and it's basically they just
it's
made
just
it a
like a little
park.
section, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they basically made it a park,
Um,
city park.
so in the contract or in the agreement, they can sell that property back to the city for like $20 million or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I remember I was at my parents' house actually when it came on the news because I don't know why, but when you go to you go to old folks' house, the news is on like all
Yeah.
day. It's the news.
Right.
So so we was all sitting down and it came on the news, and I was like, oh, so they probably gonna sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think right after that they came and said like they plan on selling it back to the city
Right.
for whatever, however much it was. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, they could have saved all that and just did like a lease back or something. I don't know, but I guess
Mm-hmm.
they had to make an event out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But people were upset at that.
And them selling it.
Yeah.
I mean, what
They-
else can you do? I mean, you either sell it or develop it. Um,
do you have experience as a developer?
that was gonna be my second point. You know, the
Do
family had to
you do
have
you have the
experience
money?
developing. So, which is just it's a shame because if that land wasn't stolen from them um, through eminent domain, they probably would have had that experience in developing the land, right? That they can pull from the last generation,
Well,
and
I
they could have
believe
been
it
on
was
their third generation of developers, and it could have been developed.
wasn't it? It was like a resort, right? I think it was like
Yeah,
I don't
it
want to
was
call it
like
a resort, but it was
one of
like
the first resorts that black people could go to.
yeah,
So it was black owned, where black people could actually go to the resort and chill and hang out in the leisure time. And yeah, they didn't like that. They don't like that. They do not like that. They don't like you coming
mhm.
up. Um, and by they I mean whites of that time. You know,
You you
the
had to get specific.
yeah. I mean, let's not act like it's just, this they in the air. But I think it's egregious because that those type of people. I mean, you work hard and you buy something like that, and I think the thing we miss is when we talk about stolen land, from people of color, it's the generational, come up. It's the generational come up of flipping that money over and over and over through the generations.
Mhm.
Even if it just sat in a bank and just compounded, it it would be enormous, right?
Yeah.
So that's not part of the conversation. Like it's always like a get over it, that was a long time ago. But other people were able to benefit from the time they spent with learning how to develop, learning how to buy real estate, going through
Mhm.
the downfalls and the failures. Like all that stuff is like useful over like three generations for
Yeah.
that third or fourth generation, which is us, to benefit from all that past knowledge of failures and successes. And so when you talk about reparations, that has to be in the conversation because that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about giving money to people who don't deserve it. We're talking about um, all the compounded interest of what could have happened and could have occurred
Mhm.
if people had the opportunity that other Americans had, other American citizens had. And you always have to we always have to come back to this because there's no other group that wasn't made whole from some racist act from their own government. You know, like the Japanese internment camps, they made them whole, gave reparations.
Yeah.
There's
We've
just
also
there's
we also been to war with them. I think that's what it
yeah.
is. We've never been to war with our country.
Right. Beyond, I mean, Civil War. Where the first time
Nah,
blacks were able to
I don't really
actually
count
fight.
that. We were allowed to
Uh,
fight, but it wasn't like us versus them. It was
Yeah,
It
like
was the
one-on-one
smarter stuff.
fade.
Yeah, like it was,
He said, I want the one-on-one fade.
like you can get your big homie, I get mine. We gonna settle this right now.
Right.
No, you're
Yeah.
right. You're right. It's the compound. They got to make up for the compounding effects, and that's
Yeah.
true. But to go back to like what we were talking about, like I think all of that is true. All of that is true. It's all true. It's all very real. We live that reality today. But in order for us to continue to push forward, we have to be able to leverage the little bit of equity we do have in anything and like push forward and reinvest.
Yeah.
We have to continue to reinvest in our own communities. We have to reinvest in other communities. Like that's the only way. That's the only way it works is
Yeah.
reinvestment. If you, I had a similar conversation with a friend of mine who I went to school with, and he's from out LA somewhere. I can't remember where exactly. And he refused to buy property there. And I
Hmm.
was like, you don't have to live there, but your money can be there working.
Right.
You can own something there, and but you don't have to physically live where you grew up at to say like I'm invested in my community. No, like if you have
Right.
a business there or you provide a service, you are vested. You are
Yeah.
doing your part.
Hmm.
And I think of course due to trauma, people try to get far away from certain things as they can, um but
I
if
mean,
if we
if that's important to you, I mean, you got other black neighborhoods you can invest in across the country if that's what you
yeah,
want to do.
I don't think well, I'm not gonna say that. I can say for me, like that's not necessarily because everywhere you go, we will always be the minority. That's why we're
Hmm.
called the minority. So I think to focus solely on that is kind of like you're limiting yourself in
Oh,
anything
what?
you do.
Oh,
Like
right,
just
right, right.
limiting it to like, oh, it has to be about, keeping it black. I think you're limiting yourself because you're missing out on the money. You're missing out on
Yeah,
all the money that would allow you to do for
yeah,
all
yeah.
the other black folks.
Right,
Like
right.
you can't do for them if you can't do for them with them. I can't pull you out of a ditch if I'm in there with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So no, this fool was podcast 101. You're supposed to turn your phone off.
I know. Business blowing up. So that's money on the line. You know what I'm saying?
um,
uh,
but but
but
yeah, no,
yeah,
I agree.
I
All,
mean,
all that is
I
true.
get that. It's interesting how we always fall into that same conversation because you can't say other things without saying that. And I wish we could just have an asterisk on. I'm going to say this, but you know, insert last hour we talked
Oh,
about.
here comes the black stuff. Like
Yeah,
yeah,
because it's so apparent. It's just people. It's easy to move on when that doesn't affect you,
hmm
and generations. It's easy to move on and be like, oh, okay, still talking about that. Yes, 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 we're still talking about that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
what? What else? That's what.
Well, I mean, I
that's
think
what comedians say when they try to figure out their next joke. And yeah, what else? What else happening
I
out here?
think well, there's a lot of stuff, but I think for the most part, um, I think we're all right. This is episode 1. We got a whole season of this. We got to get back in the groove. Get back in the rhythm, and but there's definitely a lot of stuff going on, especially in the economy, um, that we definitely want to touch on. Because it's something new happening every day, and when you pay attention to so for those of you who don't, you should go and look up the economic calendar. You can just Google it. You can literally Google economic calendar, and it'll like give you the calendar with all the dates to anytime there's like any data coming out. um, and just pay attention to that because that's where all this information would come from, and
What
we're going to
information?
be
What
touching
are
on
you
a lot
speaking
of
to?
it.
What
It'll
information?
be GDP numbers, CPI numbers,
Oh, okay.
PPI numbers, all the data about the economy. Because ultimately, we want people to be smart. We want people to get smarter. We want people to be smarter. Um, so you
Do we? Is
gotta
that the
you gotta
point? That's the
take into
point of this
that.
podcast for people to get smarter.
No, I don't think so. But I would like people to get smarter because then I have more people to talk to. You know.
Yeah. So get smarter so Jared can talk to you.
No, I don't mean it like that. It does sound like that, but that's not what I mean. But if
No,
it's like if we had a bar and I'm talking about CPI numbers or something, they don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
well, nobody want to hear that at a bar. We
But
out
I
partying.
do.
We trying to
I
drink.
do. No, I don't want to party
Man,
and drink.
put in your blog.
I don't want to party and drink.
Well, don't go to a bar.
I want to talk about money.
There's places, the time and place for that.
Yeah, every place.
That's why you can't take him nowhere.
Every place we talk about money. But yeah, so we got a lot coming this season. We're gonna have some guests coming. We just got a studio, right?
Yep.
Um,
I forgot to post that teaser. Yeah, if you go to our Instagram, I'm gonna post a teaser at the studio.
we just got locked in a new studio. We'll be able to do stuff out of.
Yeah.
We got merch. Go ahead and get your merch. We'll have more shirts coming. Shirts coming soon. We're working through some kinks right now with the manufacturer, but more merch coming soon.
Got
What
them new
else we
paper
got?
clips.
Yeah,
You gonna check on those Rich by Monday paper clips?
Should we do lighters? I thought about doing lighters, but I'm like, I don't really even use lighters. But should we do lighters?
No, I mean what for what?
I don't know.
It's on fire. On the fire with my logo on the fire.
It's just it's just a thing because everybody's not gonna, buy. Everybody's not gonna buy a sweater. Everybody's not gonna buy a shirt.
I
But
like
it's just
pens.
something.
I like pens. I think that's one of my collections I'm starting. Not actual writing pens, but pens.
Yeah, like you pin on like your shirt or your jacket or something.
I've been really getting into like collecting those.
Okay, we could do that. I'll look into that.
Get one for me.
Yeah. What if we did our own shoes?
A shoe?
Yeah.
Well, like a hard bottom?
No. I'm not against that. But
Some
no,
boots.
like we did we'll talk about it later. I'll show you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's gonna be more stuff coming, more information. We look forward to bringing y'all a whole bunch of new stuff. And sorry we've been away so long, but life got in the way and we needed a break. But we're coming back. We're gonna have collabs, especially now we got a studio. We can do more collaborative content.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see the people in person.
Yeah. So anything else, Dorrance?
Nope, that's it. You're welcome.
You got what I gave.
You got what I gave. You're welcome.
All right.